The Simagic P1000 pedals have been out for about a year and are very highly recommended by a lot of happy owners out there. The Haptic Pedal Reactors and the easy integration into the P1000s is certainly part of that appeal, and I've been lucky enough to have this pedal set for the last 8 months to give my long-term review. A big thank you to simrigs.com and Racecraft here in Australia who loaned me this pedal set for review all the way back in September. They've been really great, and once again, big thank you to them for making this review possible. Let's start with initial impressions. This is an absolutely stunningly beautiful set of pedals, with great attention to detail everywhere. The quality of the machining and the attention to detail is really impressive everywhere you look. From the overall design, the anodized surfaces, the chamfered and polished edges, cable management cutouts for the haptic reactors, the use of cotter pins for easy maintenance, and a whole heap of other little details. When I unboxed these pedals last year, I skipped right over this box which contains the springs and accessories, which was a mistake. Springs, bolts, bit of hardware in there. I'm going to put this aside. I thought some springs and tools would be really boring, but it turns out that the included toolkit is really high quality. Every single part of that toolkit is very impressive. And I think that shows that Simagic is really wanting their users to have a very good experience right from the beginning to the end. Just looking at the toolkit shows that Simagic wants the user experience to be really good, and I already feel very looked after as a customer just by looking at the toolkit. The attention to detail continues deeper. The pedals arrive semi-configured with the pedals pre-attached to the base plate, and the heel plate needs to be attached by the customer using these rods that connect the two pieces. You'll never see these once installed, but they are gorgeously machined and finished. And the clearances between the rods and the slots that they slide into is just the right amount of tightness, and Simagic are really showing off that they're able to mass produce parts with really tight tolerances. The instructions are really clearly written and the illustrations very easy to read thanks to the high contrast black and red print. As far as first impressions go, I was really impressed, and I'm really fussy with this kind of thing. Installation was really easy. I was upgrading from a set of Fanatec Club Sport V3 pedals, and I was prepared to fully rebuild the aluminium profile pedal tray, but once the V3 pedals came off, the P1000 pedals went straight on with the exact same mounting hole pattern, which I think is a really smart and customer-friendly choice by Simagic. There are a lot of Fanatec V3 pedals out there and users upgrading from them, and by using the exact same mounting points, Simagic has made the upgrade process a lot easier for all of them, myself included. Simagic include these slotted side mounting plates. These give you the option to run the pedals without the base plate or onto cockpits that don't have the exact perfect mounting pattern. These are press-bent powder-coated steel, and they're a bit less impressive to look at than the machined and anodized aluminium that the rest of the P1000s are made of, but they work really well, and all in all, I'd give the P1000s a 10 out of 10 for ease of mounting options. Let's talk about the haptics, because this is one of the standout features of the P1000. And in fact, a lot of people that don't use Simagic pedals are buying the Haptic Pedal Reactors and adapting them to pedals from other brands as well. These are really nicely integrated into the P1000s. The pedals are pre-drilled for the HPR mounting, there's cutouts in the arms for the cable management, and the connectors for each reactor are conveniently located right next to each individual pedal. So are these haptics worth it over a conventional shaker mounted underneath the pedal tray? This is a commonly recommended setup, and I have that installed on the rig as well. And in my experience, the effect from the shakers is completely different. The shaker underneath the heel plate, I thought I would feel directly underneath my heels, but because the pedal tray and the aluminium profile cockpit are so rigid, it actually transmits the vibrations, and I actually feel the effects from the heel plate shaker in my seat more than anywhere else. With the Simagic Haptic Pedal Reactors, I get the feedback directly into the soles of my feet. And the strength of the Simagic haptics is really impressive. Listen to this clip and you can hear how powerful these haptic reactors are. Having the haptics on each individual pedal is definitely the right choice, and there's a reason that so many people are buying these and that there are adapters to mount these haptic pedal reactors on pretty much every brand of pedals out there. The pedals in their standard configuration work pretty well, but the pedal spacing is quite tight, and there's a few millimeters of adjustment left and right available, but I wish there was more side-to-side freedom with the P1000s. I think the reason that Simagic only offer a small number of mounting holes for each pedal is because of the placement of the plugs for the Haptic Pedal Reactors. If these plugs were at the back of the pedals instead, then Simagic could give us mounting holes all the way across the pedal plate, and I wish that's what they did. To keep a really clean aesthetic, the individual mounting holes for each pedal are placed in less than convenient locations, and the pedal mechanisms themselves do get in the way when you're trying to undo or tighten these bolts. If you happen to drop a bolt next to its bolt hole, it's really difficult to fish out because of all the hardware that you have to curl your finger around. Also, if you move the throttle or the clutch outwards, they will block the mounting hole. And for me to get these pedals onto the desk here, I actually had to mount the clutch back to its original position before I could unbolt the pedals. This is probably going to be a non-issue for most of you who just install the pedals and use them. But because I test equipment and I install and uninstall things all the time, this is a bit of a nuisance for me. And when I reinstall these onto the rig after this review is done, I will be using the side mounting plates which don't get blocked by the pedal positioning. The clutch has a two-stage mechanism that makes the pedal fall away to simulate a clutch bite point, which a lot of pedal manufacturers do. I personally don't like it. I prefer a linear progressive feel to the clutch, which is a lot more in line with the clutch feel in the manual cars I've driven in the past. I don't think there's a way to tune out the two-stage feel, but I did find putting a stiffer clutch spring helped. You can see I've got the yellow clutch spring installed, and this is a little stiffer than the standard blue one. I actually noticed there was a mistake in the instructions which said the yellow one was softer than the blue, but that's not the case. And I am aware that Simagic has updated the included pedal tuning accessories, so the springs and elastomers. So if you were to buy P1000s today, you'd get more pedal tuning accessories than I did, and the mistake in the instructions might already be addressed. The brake is a cool design that leans on this ball to load up the 100kg load cell. There's a box of elastomers included to tune the brake feel, and I found that the P1000 that I received came with the brake configured as hard as it can get, which is not quite brick wall solid, but not far off it. And I did find that I switched out some of the stiff elastomers in the standard setup to some softer ones, just to give the brake a little bit more travel before it got really solid. In terms of the brake performance, I can get a similar pedal feel setup on the Simagic P1000s as well as on my V&M lights and the Fanatec Club Sport V3s. In terms of the load cell brake, I'd say that all three actually perform similarly, at least mechanically, but the software is what sets apart great pedals from cheaper alternatives, and I'm really pleased with the software experience with the P1000s. Simagic's pedal calibration is really clear and simple, and the curve adjustment is done with 3 points per pedal, which I think is perfect. Fanatec pedals don't offer any curve adjustment at all, and the V&M pedals, which I do have in the studio, also have pedal curve adjustment, but at 20 points over the travel rather than the 3 of the Simagic. 20 points is just too much work to do, even though it does give you finer control. I find that with Simagic only giving you 3 points, it gives you enough tunability, but it's also quick and simple to do, so I think Simagic really got the balance right there. The throttle has a really long throw, even when adjusted to the minimum possible, and that meant that I had to make adjustments to the pedal face to compensate for that, and I needed to make a choice between my right foot being uncomfortable at full throttle or uncomfortable when off throttle. I did 3D print this throttle travel limiter designed by Scott Nichols and uploaded on Thingiverse, which completely fixed the issue, so big thanks to Scott for sharing his design. The throttle is also quite light even when adjusted to the stiffest position, but I see that Simagic includes stiffer throttle springs with their P1000s now. This older review unit, which I received last year, only has the one spring, which is a bit light for me, but I see that Simagic has already addressed that issue. The pedal faces have a beautifully textured semi-gloss finish, which is really beautiful, but I do find just a little bit slick for my liking. On my test cockpit, I have that set up in a formula position, which means that my hips are roughly at the same level as my feet. A couple of times when hitting the brake, I did notice my foot slipped up and off the brake pedal, so I personally would prefer a grippier pedal face. But if you have your cockpit set up in a conventional GT position where your hips are above the pedals, when you hit the brakes, you'll actually be pressing down into the pedals, so I don't think you'll slip off them in that configuration. Overall, I think the P1000s are a masterclass in manufacturing, design, fit, and finish. The feeling of quality when you unbox and install these is amazing. The software is very user-friendly, and the P1000s are a nice upgrade in build quality and adjustability from mid-range competitors like the Fanatec Club Sport V3s. In terms of pure performance, I think the P1000s offer a small upgrade over the Fanatec V3s. The haptics are a lot better, and the pedal curve tuning definitely helps a little bit, but the brake pedal feel and performance in my hands is actually very similar between the two, and that's not a bad thing for the P1000s. I think that the Fanatec V3s actually have a pretty competent load cell. So I do think that the key upgrade the P1000 offers is in everything except the brake. So the haptics, the build quality, the adjustability. My biggest complaints with the P1000 are the long throttle throw and the limited side-to-side adjustability. The throttle throw was easily corrected with some 3D printed accessories, but the side-to-side adjustability is something that's locked into the pedal base. And if you're someone who loves to do heel-toe driving, I personally find that tuning the pedal spacing is very important to get a good pedal feel. And although I did get the spacing dialed in for heel-toe shifting on the P1000s, the clutch is maxed to the left and the throttle is maxed to the right, and the mounting holes are blocked by both pedals because of this. Again, not a big deal for most users, just annoying if needing to move the pedal base. Overall though, my experience with the P1000s was pretty impressive, especially the build quality and the attention to detail. And I think that those of you who buy these and unbox them at home will really be impressed by the quality. And the number of positive reviews online is testament to the fact that a lot of people are very happy with their P1000s, and I can see why. And there we have it, you've made it to the end of another review, and I'm really happy that I got to test these pedals. The experience overall was really good, and my communication with Simagic and their distributors in Australia, simracing.com and Racecraft, has been really good. So if you're in the market for a pedal upgrade, I think it's worth getting in touch with those guys and seeing how they can help you out. And of course, leave a comment and let me know what you thought of this video. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks guys.